Metal Gear Solid is one of, if not the, most impactful video game I've ever played. The original completely redefined what I thought a video game could be, and contains some of the most memorable moments I've ever had holding a controller. The second in the series, well, controversial at the time, has aged phenomenally well and is eerily prophetic concerning the role of technology and the information age looking back on it today. Metal Gear Solid 3 revealed a whole new angle to the story of the series and spun a deeply interpersonal narrative that served as the true beginning of all the events we'd experienced prior, and Metal Gear Solid 4 was an end to those same events. And after two outings on the PSP, one that serves as a direct prequel and gameplay prototype of the topic today, we arrive at the Phantom Pain, the next generation Metal Gear title that supposedly finishes bridging the gaps between the saga of Big Boss and Solid Snake, as well as the last true Metal Gear we'll ever get to play, as series head Hideo Kojima has since parted ways with franchise owner Konami. To say I've been anticipating this title would be an understatement. I'm only about 20 hours into the Phantom Pain, which, despite being a lot of time for most games, has barely let me scratch the surface here, with most of my time having been spent doing side ops, basically side quests with virtually no bearing on the game's plot. So I can't comment too much on the Phantom Pain's story yet, nor would I want to without seeing it through to completion, though you can rest assured I'll have a lot to talk about once I've gotten to that point, as I'm a massive fan of the dizzying narrative the series has spun over its decade and change run. However, I'm in a pretty decent position to talk about the game's structure and basic mechanics, and since this new Metal Gear is more focused on gameplay than any in the series prior, this seems like the perfect topic for our first impressions discussion, so let's dig into it. It's amazing how much the Phantom Pain enables both stealth and combat. Unlike previous Metal Gear titles, which I felt had stiff gameplay mechanics, Phantom Pain plays insanely smoothly. Venom Snake is capable of so many different tactics for so many situations that you rarely feel like you have no recourse or at the mercy of the game, even after triggering an alarm and having an entire outpost worth of soldiers on your tail. Of course, with expanded gameplay mechanics, the AI of previous Metal Gears, with limited cones of vision and simple responses to basic stimulus, would be a cakewalk to deal with, so Phantom Pain brings some of the most capable enemies in the series, and it became painfully apparent that the tried and true tactics from earlier installments would not work here. The AI consistently surprised me with its ability to detect me even when decently concealed, forcing me to play more intelligently. Reconnaissance is absolutely essential to successful infiltration in the Phantom Pain, and finding a good vantage point to survey an enemy encampment during the day, then sneak in undetected at night, is not only exhilarating when done correctly, but also provides a feeling of authenticity to the whole tactical espionage action that has long been the series' tagline. It's incredible how satisfying everything feels in the Phantom Pain mechanically as well. Gunplay feels incredibly rewarding, easily the best the series has ever offered, no longer limiting you to standing in place and aiming down the sights, but allowing a full range of motion in both third and first person. The satisfying crack as bullets hit flesh makes each hit feel earned, and the extra brutal sound accompanying a headshot pleases some dark primal corner of your mind. But a subtle way the Phantom Pain encourages stealth is that the CQC moves feel even more satisfying and make you feel even more badass. Anyone can aim down the sight of an M16 and unload, but subtly looming a guard over to your position with a deftly tossed empty magazine, then waiting for the perfect moment to strike, reaching out from behind a wall, grabbing the goon, then brutally slamming him face first into a wall with a supremely satisfying, sickening crunch feels way more rewarding than even the most skillful headshot. Beyond earning a better mission grade, the Phantom Pain rewards you in its most essential ways with playing smart and stealthily, and that makes all the difference, enticing you to play subtly instead of demanding it, as it would have in past titles. Of course, sometimes you will mess up and will be forced to go in guns blazing, and it's here that the Phantom Pain really shows how its gameplay approach has changed. Rather than start you off with literally nothing as it has been in the past, you begin the Phantom Pain pretty well equipped with both lethal and non-lethal gear, allowing you the ability to hold your own in a firefight, at least to a degree. You're still just one guy, so charging headfirst into a Soviet outpost will lead you to a predictably quick death. But if you do trigger an alarm, it's still possible to fight your way out if you keep your wits about you. And even a well-planned sneak attack can lead to a successful firefight, as taking out radio arrays in an outpost cuts off communication, preventing reinforcements from being called in. Now, with only a handful of guards to take care of, a hostile takeover of an enemy stronghold is suddenly much more doable. None of these tactics were even impossible in previous Metal Gear titles, and combined with the open world, the breadth of player choice Phantom Pain allows makes for a game that can be played however you like, which is very satisfying. Reading other articles, reviews, and first impressions, I don't think I really understood the gravity of how comparatively little story there is in Phantom Pain compared to its predecessors, and I'm still not sure how I feel about this shift in focus. On the one hand, this new gameplay first mentality allows for some of the most dynamic set pieces in any game I've ever played, allowing me to live out those insane Metal Gear moments that I've usually been relegated to watching in the past. But on the other hand, the crazy, over-the-top narrative and dizzying pseudo-philosophical dialogue was a hallmark of this series, and integral to the game's appeal, at least to me, and a lot of that is just outright missing in the Phantom Pain, and what little is left has been relegated to in-game audio cassettes. Even Peace Walker, which had a comparatively light story compared to others in the series, was far more narratively driven than the Phantom Pain. At least so far. I'm 10% into the game. Part of this seems to be due to the odd removal of David Hayter as the voice of Big Boss, instead being replaced by Kiefer Sutherland. It's almost as if Konami either couldn't or wouldn't afford him, as Venom Snake is basically a mute compared to Hayter's portrayal of the character. Hayter's Snake always seemed to have something to say, a bit of cynical commentary informed by years of experience on the battlefield, often contrasted by his more optimistic and at times naive counterparts. But in the few cutscenes Venom Snake has been in so far, he's said nothing, even with his supposed comrades on Mother Base. It almost feels like a Nintendo game at times, with Snake being the silent protagonist and Miller and Ocelot coming off as talking to themselves. It's really quite jarring. While the gameplay is a massive improvement over anything the series has delivered before, the narrative, at least in the beginning, is so much more subtle than what the series is known for that the Phantom Pain almost doesn't feel like a Metal Gear game at all. It's an incredibly fun game to play, but when you have almost 20 years of structure, suddenly switching up the formula is going to give series veterans whiplash and leave them confused, and that's certainly been the case for me. One other aspect I'm not really a fan of so far is how each mission is treated as a movie, with the cast list in the beginning and giving Kojima another chance to put his name somewhere. A quick aside, for all the outrage of Kojima having his name pulled from trailers and box art, I was amazed at how often his name turns up in the actual game. His name is the second thing that pops up in the opening cutscene. Emulating film is a fine enough stylistic choice, and I wouldn't at all be surprised if it later ties thematically into the game's overall plot, but with a much looser story already, it sucks when the opening credits reveal who is going to be in each mission. For example, one of the earliest mission's opening credits cites a special appearance by Skullface, one of the main baddies, even though the dossier on the mission makes no mention of him, so his surprise appearance at the end of the level is all but spoiled before you even touch down and get started. Mother Base expansion and development is back and better than ever in the Phantom Pain. The ability to recover soldiers and build up MSF was one of the most surprisingly addicting aspects of Peace Walker, something I thought I'd begrudgingly grind through to see the narrative to the end. But in practice, it was very rewarding in and of itself, helping ground the concept of a military without borders as something personal, something you were actually building, which made its subsequent destruction in Ground Zeroes even more painful. However, starting from scratch with Diamond Dogs in the Phantom Pain is an even richer experience, Mother Base being an actual location you can, and indeed need, to visit from time to time, with soldiers you've extracted wandering around its platforms and saluting you whenever you get close, and will gladly take a beating at a moment's notice, responding with a swift "thank you, boss," for that punch in the face. Being able to traverse Mother Base, as opposed to simply seeing it expand from a bird's eye view in Peace Walker, gives a much better sense of scale to the whole thing, letting you really comprehend just how intense what you're creating with Diamond Dogs really is. Key to expanding Mother Base is the Fulton Recovery System, essentially a large balloon you attach to enemies to send them back to base to join your army. And in Phantom Pain, it's better than it was before. The expanded Fulton allows you to recover not only enemy soldiers like in Peace Walker, but also supplies like turrets, mortars, vehicles, supply containers, and even flora and fauna, all which serve to improve the abilities of Mother Base. Whether it's developing better weapons and items, having more information on weather conditions and enemy movement in the field, or getting on-site support ranging from simple supply drops to powerful airstrikes that can quickly turn the tide on an enemy outpost, the rewards for growing your base are staggering. Like Peace Walker before it, growing Mother Base is key to success, and it takes a lot of wet work to really start digging into the best gear and most potent options the Phantom Pain allows. Even 20 hours in, my Mother Base is still E rank in most areas, so it helps that the gameplay surrounding building up the base is fun. You're going to be playing a lot if you want to unlock everything. Overall, my first impressions of the Phantom Pain are overwhelmingly positive, unsurprising considering the praise it's gotten in general. However, my enjoyment from the title actually comes despite my love of Metal Gear and not because of it, something I was certainly not expecting. While an incredibly deep, rewarding, and flat-out fun open-world tactical action game, The Phantom Pain often feels so removed from the Metal Gear pedigree that very little of what I've taken away from and enjoyed in past games is contributing to what I'm enjoying here. It's the least Metal Gear, if that makes sense, at least so far, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a bit disappointed by that. Still, there's a lot more of Phantom Pain left to dig through, so I'll be holding off any damning judgments till the credits roll. Actually, probably a little while after that, as I've heard there's post-credits story content as well, but you get the idea. Before I go, I'd just like to take a moment to thank all of my wonderful patrons here on Patreon, who make videos like this possible. Without these people's generous support, this channel wouldn't be a thing, and this video wouldn't have been made. I'd also like to give a special shout out to Twisted Prism for editing this video far better than I could have. So if you see these guys in the comments, give them some love. If you like this video and this channel and want to help keep me going and be on this list too, check the link in the description to check out my Patreon. Anything you can do for me is highly, highly appreciated. And that's all I got for this video. Give it a thumbs up if you thought it was good, or give it a thumbs down if you thought it freaking sucked. Metal Gear has a long history, so I'd love to hear in the comments below what you guys' most memorable moment in the series was, as well as your thoughts on The Phantom Pain so far. I'll be joining in the discussion. My name is Tommy Oliver, and I make nerdy videos like this on a weekly basis. I'll have an exhaustive review of Metal Gear Solid 5 once I finish the game, so if you like Metal Gear, you should definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. I also run a few other channels and do some writing and drawing stuff off of YouTube, so if you're interested in other things I do with my time, be sure to check out the link in the description to T. Oliver Productions. Until next time, I'm Tommy Oliver. Stay curious.